And just like that, baby, we are officially live on the official Wydoe podcast with your boy Wydoe. And today we got a special guest. We are back at it again, baby, with Mr. OnetakeOnlyChris. How you feeling, dog?
I'm feeling good, man. Blessed. Appreciate you. Blessed. Highly favored. I'm feeling good. First off, thank you for allowing me to be on this podcast. Guys, if you've been seeing not only the work, but the energy and the creativeness that Wydoe's been putting into this, then you've seen something great and something that you should be inspired by. This man puts time, energy, and focus into something. And I know what that takes. So I can truly appreciate somebody else that goes above and beyond to create something that is so presentable. So huge shout out to you and huge shout out to what you got going on, man.
Come on, man. I appreciate those words, dog. We are live from the FWMB studios.
Yes,
you already
sir.
know, forever with my brothers. And I appreciate his words, man. I've been at this thing 10 years as Wydoe. Used to make music pretty much at 5 years on the show. This is episode 91.
That's actually interesting. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
One of my favorite Psalms is Psalms 91. That's crazy. Yo,
Come on now.
that's fire.
I
Wow.
love that. I love it.
Yes.
We're going to dive into that a lot
Yes.
more. So, Chris, let's go ahead and get right into the intro. How old are you? Where were you born? Where were you raised?
I'm 25, and I was born in PSL.
Come on now.
I was born and raised in PSL. And I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. And I used to tell everyone that I was born in New York because
Right.
all of my siblings were from New York.
Right.
But the classic Dominican story, my parents met up and they moved down to Florida and then they had me.
Yeah.
I'm 6 of 7. There's 7 of us. They had the first 5, New York, and then they had me and my sister here. But then as I began to get older and as I began to grow my business, I saw that as something powerful because people love to complain about where they're from if they're from a small town like where I'm from. PSL was a very small town when I was, first born here.
Yep.
But it's grown to be something so big. And people like to bash PSL. PSL is a great city, fabulous city that is great to raise families. And it's a great city, obviously, if you own a business. But people are just now seeing that.
Yeah.
So there's people who want to start businesses now, but they're kind of getting like the back end of that initial growth that we saw. So maybe if you were to start your company 7, 8, 9 years ago, you would have been able to grow with the city as the city was growing.
Yeah.
So I love that I'm from PSL. Everybody hates it.
Yeah.
But I think it's super cool to be one of maybe 1,000 people left alive that was actually born here.
The
So,
originals,
yeah.
right, man. I was born in Rockledge. Shout out to Cape Canaveral, the space program. My whole family's been a part of NASA. So I was born there, moved to PSL when I was 5, and I've been a 772 baby ever since. You already know we
772,
representing,
let's
dog.
get it.
But a lot of people, Chris, that lived in New York for a year, a couple months with their family, then they're from New York, right? And it is what it is. I feel like as a kid, we always heard that. But I was always proud of PSL, Port St. Lucie. I was really excited to see some of the artists we have representing 772. You know what I mean? We got Melly, you got Boss Man D-Lo, took it global now. So I love to see that. People from our hometown, our area code, making it known. You always hear, he's from LA, he's from New York. It's kind of odd hearing somebody from Port St. Lucie or the Treasure Coast. You know what I mean? So now we're on the map. And I know a lot of famous, successful people that have moved here.
Yeah.
That I know from famous, from TV or whatnot, and they're moving here. They live here. People don't even know that. So it's a destination that you come to raise your family, you want to come and be safe, be peaceful, and at the end of the day, that's what always matters.
Absolutely.
Chris, I want to ask you, what is premium detailing? Can you talk about your business one time for the one time?
Absolutely. Premium Detailing is a company that I actually started July 2017. So July 1st, this year will be 8 years. So I'm going to be doing a huge post because that's such a great feat that I don't think a lot of people can say that they've stuck with anything for 8 months, let alone 8 years.
Exactly.
And I give it all to God because there's been so many ups, downs, lefts, rights, etc., things that have tried to take me off track. And God's been so graceful and so merciful to just always put me back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And God disciplines us in the same way that a father would to his kid. And as stubborn and as ignorant as your kid will be, you're going to keep disciplining them until they get it right.
Yeah.
And God just keeps bringing me back. No matter how far I go, he always brings me back to just keep me focused and just keeps me on track. But anyways, Premium Detailing is an auto detailing company that I started with just a few $100. And we've turned it into something that produces over $300,000 a year gross by the grace of God. Like I said, there's been ups, downs. So by the grace of God, I can even claim numbers like that. So we have the mobile rig, which we've actually been going more down south, but usually it's in like Stewart, PSL, Fort Pierce, but we've been doing a lot of work in Jupiter, Palm Beach, and we're thinking about expanding over to Miami soon. So that's something that I haven't talked about. So only real Wydoe podcast people, you guys are the only ones getting this info. So we're thinking about expanding down to Miami, but we do go all the way up to like Vero, Sebastian. So we have the shop where we do coatings, corrections, tints, wraps, PPF, etc. But most of our income is through mobile. So that's where most of our service is. We just got the shop October last year. So this is our first time having a shop, and we're just trying to get that going too. So yeah.
Now, a lot of people, shout out to that, man. I appreciate you being a young business owner, young CEO, and someone that really did it from the ground up. Some businesses might be funded, invested, and just start with a lot of money, and some businesses have to grow from the ground up. And I think you've done that. Can you take me back to when it was just you, the early days of premium detailing, and how long before you made a real team? How long was it just you out there?
When I first started, and I'll actually bring you all the way back. So I was working at Zoomies, making $8.05 an hour. This is when I was 17. So senior year, 17 years old, only making $8 an hour, 1% on commissions, which isn't really anything if you're working at Zoomies, right? So one of my coworkers came in and he was talking about how he detailed cars for Jaguar and how Jaguar was charging like $120 a car, $150 a car. And he said that it would take him 5 hours, 6 hours to do a car. And I said, 5 hours, 6 hours. So then I began to do the math. I said, okay, well, 120 divided by 6, that's $20 an hour. I quit instantly.
Right.
As soon as he told me that, on my break, I drove to Staples from the Treasure Coast Mall. So then I had to go all the way to Stewart, go to Staples, type up my 2-week notice. I came back into work. This is all within like a 2-3 hour period. Handed in my 2 weeks. Thankfully, my boss, Mark, at that time, which actually taught me a lot about sales. So Mark, if you're seeing this, big shout out to you. But he taught me a lot about sales. Anyways, so I turned in my 2 weeks, and the next day, I went to the store, got like a bucket, soap, a vacuum, and I began to knock on doors. And I got my first detail the next day, $100, and we did it in 3 hours. So that was $33 an hour. So it was a huge leap. It was a instant 4X on my income, and it was all cash. So it was just such an eye opener for me. But we didn't really start to grow and really get our team going until 2021. So 2021, I had this mentor that transitioned me into another mentor. Then I hired a real mentor. I paid him $1,500 a month for 9 months just to speak to him for 2 hours and 30 minutes a month. I spoke to this guy for almost no time, but that 2.5 hours that I had with him monthly were so valuable. And my business blew up. We went super insane. That was when we first began to hit $20,000 months, $30,000 months. It was crazy. So huge shout out to that mentor. And I highly suggest you guys hiring mentors if you're in any industry and you're trying to grow in that industry. So that was kind of how we started, and now we're doing good. So yeah.
Mentors are super important in life. You know what I mean? Anything, I think, especially as a male, having a mentor is really important if you don't have a great dad. But even a mentor aside from your dad, I think you kind of look at him a certain way until you get a certain age and you realize, damn, my dad was just a normal man. You know what I mean? He wasn't just my dad. He was whoever he was. But mentors are important. Just like college, people don't realize college is an investment. You pay a lot of money to go get knowledge obtained from college. A mentor is kind of doing the same thing one-on-one. So that's really big that Chris invested in himself, in his craft. Be careful who you invested with. A lot of mentors, that was years ago, right?
Yes.
But it worked out for him. In my opinion, I heard a really good saying that if you want to get rich, you have to learn how to solve problems. A lot of people have problems, and if you can come here and solve a problem for you, you're going to get rich. He was able to solve a problem. People have vehicles. They need them to be clean. I'm here to offer it for you.
That's it.
To you, how hard was it going door to door at first, and was that uncomfortable for you at first?
It was definitely something difficult in terms of physically, but then also mentally. Staying disciplined mentally to say, even though I don't physically feel good, I'm going to keep going to the next door. And it's funny that you mentioned door to door, because in 2018, we were passing out flyers We were passing out flyers in Vizcaya Falls, and that's on Torino. And one of my best customers was found because instead of just putting a flyer on his door, I saw that he had like 3 nice cars in his driveway. Yeah. And I knocked on his door. And I tried talking to him, selling him, and he ended up calling me the next day. And maybe he spent maybe $10,000 with me over like a 2-year period, just from that one convo, just one customer, and that was big to us back, then. Yeah. So absolutely. And I got that from a book, Think and Grow Rich, and it talks about using your gut often. So I always told my guys when we're passing out flyers, if you feel something that says knock on the door, do it instantly. Act fast and knock on the door. And more times than not, that person ends up being a great customer for us. So, yeah.
Now, Chris, I want to ask you, I remember a few years ago, it might have been the DR. You went on a trip overseas, and you had the premium detail going. You were already OnetakeOnly, and I noticed you jumped in on some details over there. Yep. And I want to ask, did you learn anything from the guys abroad and what they do, and what was that experience like?
Definitely. I was actually in Colombia. So I was in Medellin, Colombia, one of the most beautiful cities in the entire world. And across from the first Airbnb that we stood at, there was a car wash. And I felt so inspired. And I still couldn't even really speak Spanish yet. But I was so inspired by just seeing how they did work. I had to jump over there, and I was using Google Translate, and I said to my cousin, if you could come help me translate, talk to them. Yeah. And they were showing me a bunch of different things that we don't use here that they use there. And it makes their job less efficient if you compare it to what we use here. But it just showed me like how much further they go to like make cars look clean.
With a lot less, I bet.
Yeah. So even though they have less tools, right, less fancy tools, they're still able to get the job done with the same quality. So it really goes to speak about detailers and the type of team that you have. People is what makes detailing good. It's less about the tools, less about the chemicals, more so about the people using those tools, using those chemicals.
I love that. And now, obviously, you've gotten into teaching. You've been able to become a mentor yourself, and you've got a big seminar coming up. Can you talk about the seminar, and why do you enjoy teaching other people?
Absolutely. So the Bible tells us to go and make disciples of all nations. So I'm simply using the platform that I'm good at, detailing, to bring more people to Christ. So the people who eventually end up on my team or end up being mentored by me, one of the biggest things that we talk about is how close are you to God? How deeply invested are you into prayer? A lot of people have problems within their businesses and they seek mentors. And then you ask them, how much have you prayed? Yeah. How often do you pray about the problems that you're currently dealing with? Prayer changes everything. Yeah. And you think about Jesus, he was perfect, and even he prayed daily, and he prayed without ceasing. So somebody who didn't need to pray Jesus, if he still prayed, how much more do we still need to pray? Right. So that's why I think when I became a mentor, that was such a big deal to me, because I know that there's a lot of detailers that are in this hustler mindset, just go make money, when that's really not even what it's about. Is your body in shape? Is your mind in shape? What are you thinking about when you're detailing? A lot of people don't even know this, but when you're detailing, you're kind of in this like free space of like thinking. Yep. So what thoughts are you having when you're like vacuuming? You're doing such a mundane task. It's easy to just drift and think about things that aren't going to really help you grow. Yeah. So getting people close to God while growing their businesses is something that I take huge passion for. July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we're going to be launching a free 3-day virtual online course where we're going to be showing you how to grow your companies, how to delegate, how to get your team set up properly, everything that you need to know when it comes to the detailing space. And I'm giving it away 100% free. I'm giving 3 hours of my time for free because I just want to give myself away so that people can take value, right? It's, clearly different from what we have inside of the actual academy, but these 3 hours are going to have some real game in them.
Yeah. I love that, man. And it's for the people out there, if you haven't been able to be blessed with faith yet, you haven't found faith. I feel like some of them might be discouraged when they hear people say, pray about it. And I think they might think, ask, and if it didn't come to you, it didn't work. But I feel like some people should look at prayer as talk to yourself. Yep. So a lot of people we know right and wrong, your gut feeling, right? And that voice in your head that, what am I doing wrong? Where am I not? What should I be doing to get there? And what am I not doing? Is that voice God? Is it, an entity? I don't know. Is it yourself? But a lot of people don't get discouraged when he says, or anyone says, pray about it. Take some time to yourself. Really evaluate. And I think a lot of people can come up with the right answer from that. And on that topic, Chris, how has faith always been strong in your life?
Yes and no. I kind of found my way to God when I was 14 because my ex-girlfriend at that time, she lived right across the street from my still now pastor. So I wasn't really close to God, but every time I came to her house, I always saw them smiling, laughing, joking. I'm thinking, yo, what do these people got that I don't got? I swear. It was like this slight envious feeling that I had. Just seeing people always laughing, joking. There was always people over, and they were always singing. I'm thinking, man, what do people got that I don't got? And one day I was outside playing ball because she used to play ball too for TC. And I was outside playing ball at her house, and the pastor had pulled in smiling, laughing, joking. Yep. And I just kind of introduced myself to him, and he brought me into his house and welcomed me to his whole family. And it was such a wow moment just to see how open-armed these people were. And that's what really got me close to God. But then I kind of drifted away here and there. And that was kind of like what I was talking about earlier, how God always seems to just pull me back. Yeah. And that's why I'm so grateful that he didn't harden my heart, because the Bible talks about how God gets to a point to where he hardens people's hearts, to where they don't listen. So many times he gives you so many chances, and it's clear that you're not going to change your ways. And it's kind of interesting how you mentioned how prayer is kind of like this internal dialogue that you have with yourself, because we do know what's right and what's wrong. You feel it instantly. Yeah. So you know what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And I do believe that is God speaking to you, telling you, man, listen. And that's what the Holy Spirit's here to do, is to convict us. So there's nothing that I can do to repay God for what he did for us. It's simply the acknowledgement of his son, Jesus, right? And being aligned with the Holy Spirit. So we can get more into that, but yeah.
Absolutely. And I love what you said earlier about the being on autopilot once you're detailing. I've done a lot of blue collar work in my life. I used to do fiber optics. We were basically digging trenches all day. Yep. And if you looked at it for what it really was, we're digging holes. Yep. But if you were able to look at the dirt as money signs, and you're with your dogs out here doing a free workout with a free tan, making great money. And I was able to use that autopilot. I'm physically doing something, but in my head, I'm thinking about where I'm at right now, this podcast reality. What do I want to be like? So don't be afraid to have a job where you're on autopilot, but don't waste that time.
Yes.
Because that's valuable time. Are you just stressing yourself? Why am I here? I didn't make it. I screwed up there. Or is it, hey, I'm getting paid right now. Let's make something else positive. You know what I mean? Yep. I love that mindset. Chris, I want to ask you, if we were to go back 15 years ago and tell yourself where you're at and what you're doing right now, would he have believed it back then?
I would say yes. And I'm going to tell you why. The fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. My father is an 8th grade dropout. Listen to this. My father's an 8th grade Dominican dropout. He got to America when he was maybe 10 years old. So English is his second language. And if you spoke to him now, you would think it's his first language. No accent. Beautiful. 8th grade dropout. Went to jail for 2 years when he was 18 years old. Anyways, my father had 2 pizzerias, 3 Subways, and has owned multiple businesses and flipped multiple houses. So would I believe that? Yes. Because from when I was conscious up until now, I've seen my dad, who had such a far starting point, become something so much. My dad just recently lost 100 pounds. Like the classic Dominican story. He works hard, but he drinks a lot of beer. So what did he do? He stopped drinking beer and he got into shape. Went from 287 to now 187, wearing my shirts. Yeah. It's insane. And if anybody knows my dad, he's such a great guy. He's such an outgoing person, has such an outgoing personality. And that's where I take a lot of who I am from. So I don't have that same struggle story. No, I've seen my dad always go out, work extremely hard, and be able to produce for 7, kids and my mom. Yeah. So I can never use that excuse as to my life was hard. No, but I think sometimes that could be a disadvantage to a lot of people, having a more easier come up. So that's also why I walk with a different level of confidence, because I see a lot of people that have great parents and came up with great childhoods, but they don't make a lot of themselves. And it's because of that lack of discipline due to a lack of struggle. So I can understand. That's also why I'm super grateful that I've been able to even stay focused, because my life was always good. Fridge was always full. I always had nice clothes. My mom always made sure that I had a nice haircut. And I still turned out a focused human being that is disciplined. And you would think that I came from some struggle or something. No, I came from a good family and I simply followed my parents. The Bible says to honor your mother and father. And I think I've done a pretty good job at that, at just making my dad's last name, Mejia, just look good. So yeah.
Absolutely, bro. And I met Chris years ago when he was younger at LA Fitness as a young hooper, man. We was hooping out there, and it was clear Chris was nice as a little point guard, but I could tell he came from a great family. Like, you tell, you was always disciplined, very respectful. You was very passionate and you was aggressive on the court. I loved how you played, dog, but you was always, very respectful. We talked trash in the middle of the game, but afterwards you could tell, man, this kid's smart. This kid's very respectful. He knows what he's doing in life. He's in control. A lot of kids, when they're young, we're not really in control, especially at the ballpark where I grew up and how I played. I want to ask, a lot of people, I love what you said. It's sometimes, when you have a great family, people don't live up to it. Did you ever feel you had to live up to your dad or what he was doing? Or do you feel like he always had your back and pushed you to be great?
I think a little bit of both, living up to the standards that my dad set. But I don't think that's a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? I think too many people are walking around trying to not lose instead of winning. There's people trying to simply not lose in life. And there's so many Christians. And I keep mentioning Christians because when you don't have Christ, I don't have much expectations for anybody who doesn't have Christ, truth be told. Because life is already difficult as it is with Christ. I could imagine life without Christ.
Alone.
Right? So, but I think there's higher expectations for Christians, because if you know who Jesus is and what he says about you, you walk differently. Right? When you're renewed in Christ, it's like having a fresh pair of shoes on. You walk different in those shoes versus, shoes that used to go hoop or you know what I'm saying? Right?
Oh yeah.
Shoes that like you don't care about. You don't care what dirt gets on those shoes. But when Christ renews you and he gives you a new body, a new mind, he rejuvenates and covers you with his blood, you're a completely new person. So back to my dad. My dad's never been a person who cursed a lot. My dad's never smoked weed before. My dad's 52 years old, went from DR to New York, went to even jail, and he's never smoked weed before. That's a different level of discipline. So I look at my dad as somebody that I want to be like, and I think it's easy to be like him, because when you look at, once again, who Christ is, if that's living inside of you, what can't you do? There's no limit to what you can do.
I love that. And I love what you said about people, they're living to not get a loss instead of trying to win. Because if you're not trying to get a loss, one loss is going to ruin your world. If you're just trying to win, you've already had 50 plus losses and you don't care. You just need that one win. I love that difference. Chris, I want to ask you, obviously you represent Premium Detailing. Chris is a great car washer. Hit him up. Okay, I'm going to put the link in his bio and a link right here in the video. But I want to ask you, as a professional car detailer, brother, who washes your car?
My team does. So you're only as good as your weakest link. So I'm only as good as the worst guy on my team, because they're essentially who's representing me when I'm not on the field. So I don't wash my own car. I give my guys as much training as they possibly need, because in like anything that you do in life, you constantly need training. Tom Brady kept watching film. He never stopped watching film, and he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, stop. Anyway.
The young generation loves that.
Right? But he kept watching film. So I always give my team a chance to do better. So the less that I'm on the field, the better that they get at getting better when it comes to that craft.
I want to ask you, Chris, as a father, congratulations, brother. I want to ask everybody that has kids, did life slow down for you, or did it speed up, if all, when you had kids?
I'll be honest. When I first had my kids, it felt like a lot of pressure, and it was difficult to deal with it at that time. But as your children get older, and people tell you this, but we don't listen always.
Yeah.
They tell you it does get easier as they get older. There's a stage between 0 to 3 months where it's very difficult. You're not sleeping much. It's very hard to really focus on anything. Relationships can be tainted. Then there's the 3 to 6 month period where now you don't have to hold the baby's head anymore. And that changes everything in itself.
Yeah.
And then they begin to walk after about a year, and that changes everything once again. So it does get easier, but initially you're going to feel that pressure. But I think that pressure is good if you have the right mindset. And that's where reading the Bible, prayer, fasting comes in handy. Always turning inside, right? Looking internally is what's going to help you solve any issue.
Yeah.
And I think you had just mentioned, it was like 5-10 minutes ago, that you have all the answers already inside of you. So I think you have all the answers to every question that you're asking. If you just pray, read, fast, and seek God earnestly, any question that you have internally, you gotta have the answer to it.
I was a psychology major, and when I went to college, I really only went to college to play basketball. I want to be a college basketball player. I went 2 years, froze my ass off in Connecticut. I got to go. But I always kind of wanted to be like a therapist or a sport analyst type of guy. But I realized in therapy, just on what you're saying, but you have the answers. The therapist just asks you a bunch of questions. They never really tell you anything, and they just ask you, how do you feel? What's this like? And what do you... So the answer is internal. It's you. People just running away from the hard truth sometimes. Yep. I want to ask Chris... obviously, it takes a lot to be a young entrepreneur, a young CEO, a young successful person in this world. And especially as someone who owns a business and runs it well like you do, I believe you had to make a lot of sacrifices at a young age. Maybe you had to miss some parties, miss some fun times. Can you speak about any sacrifices you had to make, if any, when you were young to get you where you are now?
Absolutely. People like to mention the sacrifice of like not going to clubs, not smoking weed, drinking, whatever, cool. But I think the biggest sacrifice that has the biggest impact is distancing yourself from people that are going to have a bigger impact than what a club would. If you were to go to a club, let's say 3 to 4 times a year, that's going to have less of an impact than if you're with somebody once a week, once even a month, that has a negative mindset or doesn't inspire you or doesn't raise your standards. So I think that was one of the biggest sacrifices that I had to make. Is I'm a very popular person and a lot of people know me and I have a lot of friends. Yeah. But there was people that I just personally had to stay away from because I knew that they weren't going to help me grow. And I was too busy anyways, but there would be times where I felt not lonely, but you miss your boys, right? And you know what I'm saying, miss those moments joking, laughing. But when you're on a mission, it's more important than those jokes and those laughs. You know what I'm saying? Those moments are never going to end anyways. We can always come back to them, and I don't regret anything. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when we grow up, you start making that shift from kid to adult to man. Is your first thought, I want to have fun. Can I have fun? Or is it, I want to work, I want to improve, I want to get rich? Some people, it's this and that. And the people that only had fun, you'll kind of realize, dang, I had a lot of fun, but I don't like where I'm at right now. The people that work, might not have been fun early. I got a job early at 18, whatever, but now in life, they're good. They're living a little better. So be careful what you choose on this journey of life. Chris, I want to ask, in your opinion, what's the one, because we got a lot of professional detailers out there. 7-Eleven's got a detail machine, right? In your opinion, what's the one biggest mistake common car owners make when washing or detailing their car?
Oh, simple. That's just taking your car to car washes. The worst detailer is still better than the best car wash. So car washes use those big... I was watching a story of somebody that I follow, and he just bought a brand new Lambo truck. And he was showing the car, and then he went to show, and he's in the car wash. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's in that's like probably a $30,000 paint option. And it's just being destroyed by the car wash. So that's probably easily the biggest mistake, is even the cheapest detailer that you can find is probably going to be better than a car wash.
Now, what about the people who wash the car? They might do a little wax or a little extra little spray, right? But they don't dry the car. Is it very important to dry the car, Chris, after washing it?
Of course, yeah. Definitely, especially here in Florida. I see people outside washing their, own cars.
Let the sun dry it.
And the sun's drying it, or they're just spraying it, or they like, you know, begin washing one side, and by the time they get to the other side, this side's already dry. So yeah, anytime I see somebody washing their own car, I try to stop to give them a business card. Even if I can't book them, at least I plant that seed that you should be using a car detailer because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, shout out to my guy Paul Too Fly, friend of the show.
Yes,
we got
sir.
a lot of people out here that detail. I know plenty of them. I know you
Yep.
know a lot of them. How do you view competition? Do you view competition as that, or is it sometimes, hey, if I can't book you, there's plenty of guys? Do we refer any guys? What's your view on competition around here?
Listen, guys, competition's real, right? There's only so many people looking to get their cars detailed. There's obviously a million cars and there's a million car washes, but there's a small percentage of people in this city looking to get their cars detailed. I would say maybe it's you know, probably less than 1% of people get their cars professionally detailed. So there's definitely competition. When I first started, there was maybe 30, 40 detailers here. Now there's maybe 300-400 detailers in PSL. So competition becomes real as more people come into the market. But what doesn't affect us is the quality of work that we do. So a lot of people can start a detailing company easily, but you got to have a detailer's eye. I talk about that all the time, a detailer's eye. If you don't have that eye, it's going to be difficult for that person to call you back knowing that there's another detailer that they can just try out because you didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
So, and that's also why we have the academy, so that people don't just become another detailer in their city. I can show them how to be that guy in their city all for it. They don't have to make the same mistakes that I made for the first 4 years. Half of the time that I've had my business, the first half was just learning how to not do things. That's it.
Right.
So I can show people how to not make those same mistakes that will cost you time, energy, money, creativeness. If you just come through the academy.
Yeah, and you got to be smart with it. I used to think I had a little idea. I was like, man, I love Mopar. I got a Mopar challenge. I was like, man, I'm gonna make a Mopar wash club. I was like, all these car meets. Why don't anybody just pull up to the car meet and be like, hey, I'll wash all these cars before the meets? So I love the creative ideas that you have. That anybody out there, if you're a mobile detailer, I love what he said. You know, as long as your standard is excellence, you can have as many detailers as we want. You know what I mean? We just can't have piss poor jobs out there and work.
Can't.
I want to ask you, Chris, you do a lot of roles. Obviously, you know, you used to be just the guy with washing the whole details. Now you still do it. Okay, you're the boss man. You're one take Chris walking up on the job. You film some, you edit everything. If everything kept going, no money deduction, but you could only do one role of the many roles that you do, which one would you pick? Meaning, which one do you enjoy the most?
Oh, definitely the one that I enjoy the most would have to be the guy behind the camera, man. OnetakeOnlyChris. That's who, you know what I'm saying? It's just, and people even know me by that now, by that, you know what I'm saying, slogan. But, and I have a stuttering problem. It's not bad, but I have a slight stuttering problem. But it's something about when my guys turn on that camera, I just lock in.
Live.
Like, right. Like,
Pressure's
I feel
on.
so, you know what I'm saying, fluid. Like, things just kind of flow through me. And I'm so good with copy. I think personally, I can just jump words and just boom, just start blabbering and just spit game fast, quick. So I think that's just something that I'm just talented with. And people ask me like, did I take a, you know, course to be so good at taking videos? Well, really, it was just a lot of practice.
Yeah.
If anybody's been following me for years, I've shot thousands of videos a month for 8 years now. So it's really just shooting a lot of videos over and over and over again.
Yeah. And I say to a lot of people, you know, make your videos. Chris's videos have improved. He might go back and look at a video 8 years ago and think it was terrible.
Oh my God.
But they've improved. It's like my videos, I've improved. So make your videos. Chris, I want to ask, you know, I believe a lot of people, you know, in the detailing business, whether you're a shoe salesman, you flips, you know, houses, any business that you do, I feel like once you get successful in it, I think once you step back, you realize I'm not just a detailer. I'm not just a pro detailer. I figured out a way to be a professional salesman. I created something to sell. When did you realize that? And did you realize that I'm not just a premium detailer, but I'm a professional salesman? This could have been tables, the same work ethic, the same mindset Chris could have applied to anything. Do you realize that it's a skill that you have as a pro salesman and marketer more than just a detailer?
I think it was back in 2021 when I hired my first mentor, the guy that I was paying $1,500 a month. He really opened up my mind to being like a creative director more so than just the guy who just washes cars. And I think a lot of people deal with a crisis of identity. Yeah. They don't know. And I think we were just talking about that earlier, about knowing who you are, and then you could be excellent at that. Yeah. Right. And Christ is a great starting point. He tells you exactly who you are through his word, and it gives you a different level of confidence walking into whatever field that you're walking in, representing him, knowing that he's before you on whatever path that you're going to take. So a lot of Christians, they pray and they beg as if God didn't already give them everything, as if the Bible didn't already tell you, you have dominion over this entire planet. So I see a lot of Christians like sad, or like somebody sick in their family and like they're sad about it, as if that's not according to the will of God, as if he doesn't already have a purpose for it. Right. As if he's not just building your faith. Like, you can't grow stronger without going to the gym and going through physical pain. That's right. So how do you expect your faith to grow if it isn't tested? That's right. And that's a perfect example of your faith, is going through those difficult times. I kind of went backtrack, but
no, you're good, because I love that, because anybody in the gym who's very fit, they withstood a lot of pain to get that, and most of them enjoy it. They enjoy that pain, that burn. Yeah. So a lot of business people, when something's going wrong, they enjoy it because now I get to improve, or something's going to come after this. Especially faith people, they know whether it's a tough time, it's a blessing's coming, whatever you have. And if you're not having faith, you can always apply this to your methods and your mindset. I want to ask Chris something I always ask on this show, because I use my show to be education. I want y'all to be entertained a little bit, but I want someone to learn out there. There might be a young Chris out there that wants to do this, wants to have, nice things, a nice vehicle, own a business, right? But what is a bad day like as OnetakeChris, the business owner? Obviously, young days, it rains on you, it's hot, it's a bad day. But right now, as a successful person you are, what is a difficult day like? Because every day can't just be all nice.
A difficult day is when one of my guys don't perform the way that I expect them to perform and the way that I know that they can perform. So what a bad day for me is if I get a text from a customer saying the windows are still streaky. And it not upsets me, but it exposes my lack of training maybe in that area. Maybe I should have trained them more. And it goes back to that Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't throw perfect, right? Maybe he'll throw a 40% completion, right? Yep. But that pays him a lot of money in the NFL. So I don't expect my team to be perfect. But unfortunately, in the detailing space, you could detail a car 99% perfect, but a customer will see one window streaky, and it's like you did the whole car bad.
Some just look for the error.
Oh my God. So it's a little bit of the client, and I know that they're just that type of client. And more so, well, if my team knows that there's that types of clients out there, you got to perform perfect. Unfortunately, this is the, life that you chose currently. You got to perform perfect because that's the standard. Because they can go to the car wash and get streaky windows, but they're paying us $400, $500, $600 to make their car look perfect. So,
yeah, I've always been a believer. I don't believe the customer's always right. I think the customer's always important.
Yes.
Because you're not just right. You're very important. That's why I'm here to give you the chance, but you're not always right, because there's plenty of customers that just want to find that error in whatever you do. I used, as a shutter installer for 7 years, I used to tell people that we'd give them stars as a customer, or like a temperature rating. That Miss Susan is red, meaning handle with care. You know what I mean? She's coming in hot. I want to ask you, I noticed one time I saw a video of your dad working with you. What was it like when you got to employ your dad, and what was that experience like?
It was great because my dad, once again, just exposed how trash my team was in comparison to him. But I think it's just, my dad's just so good at anything that he does, and he strives for excellence. He goes above and beyond. If I say just do a basic wash, he's going to do a full detail. It's less about not how good my team is, more so that he always just wants to outperform.
Right. That's the old style. That's the old generation. It was like, whatever it is, we're gonna do it bigger and better. Chris, obviously you've been a big face on the internet, on social media. You're very powerful. A lot of people see you engaged. But I want to ask, a lot of people might have a misconceived judgment about you. In your opinion, what's the one thing people misunderstand about OnetakeOnlyChris?
OnetakeOnlyChris receives a lot of pridefulness or conceited curses thrown towards him. But the Bible talks about how the curses of a fool don't land on its intended person. So back to that identity crisis. Am I conceited, or is it that you don't feel as confident? I've never been told that I'm conceited by anybody doing better than me personally.
Right.
A lot of my clients
Right.
actually boast about me. So who should I believe? The people that are not where they want to be in life, or the people who are exactly where they thought they were going to be in life? So that's something that I get a lot. People think I'm conceited because I talk about the certain numbers that we do. And truth be told, a lot of that is to persuade people and educate people on what they can do, showing them the abilities that they have, because I'm nobody special. And also for the academy, I have to sell them that I know what I'm doing. This is why you should join the academy, because on this job where I was able to charge $4,200, maybe you would have only charged $2,700.
Exactly.
Now, how can we get that extra $1,500 for you also?
Yeah.
So there has to be some type of comparison for other detailers to look at and say, okay, I trust him because he's doing better than me. So yeah.
Love that. He's not conceited, ladies and gentlemen. He's consistent.
That's it.
And he's sure on who he is. A lot of people are not sure about what they are. When I was a kid, I was told, you could be whatever you want to be, Wyatt. And it took me a long time to be like, well, I got to make a choice. Because if I go through life saying I could be whatever, I'm never going to know. A lot of grown people, you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They still don't know. I want to ask you, speaking on that, you've done very well with the video showing how much you made that day, how much you made per job. Some people might hate that. Some people might get inspired by that. I think you're doing it for the right reasons. And if you did, even if you do hate on it, it worked out for him. You left the comment hating, that it worked out for the engagement, right?
Yes, sir.
And at the end of the day, I want to ask, or on that, what is the highest number you've made one day, and what's the lowest number on a job you made?
The lowest, this was when I first began. I did a detail for one of my old friends, Daryl. It was for $20.
Shout out to Daryl on the $20 deal now.
He got a OnetakeOnly detail for $20 back in 2017. I'll never forget. It was in the middle of the summer. He pulled up to my house and was in my house eating food, chilling.
Yeah.
And I was detailing his car for like 2 hours outside for $20. I don't know why I gave him such a crazy discount, but he said that he was going to go to the car wash. I said, nah, pull up. And he threw me a dub, and I don't know. It wasn't really the smartest choice. But we've had a couple of big jobs. We just completed a $7,350 job, so $7,350. But that was over a few days. How much I've made in like a single day off of just one, really off of just one day, maybe $3,000. Like doing the work, finishing that work that day, maybe $3,000. Yep. Like we just closed a $4,200 job today, but that's gonna be done over like 2-3 days.
Yeah.
We just actually we closed. We didn't like close, but we detailed for Brandon Nimmo. He's number 9 for the New York Mets. Mm-hmm. And on that day where we did his car and we did a couple of other cars, we made $6,700. But that was like he pre-purchased details and we did a coating for him, and then we did another full detail over here. So a little bit of that was just pre-purchased details, but a lot of detailers still don't even get that. So
a lot of people that hate on those big number jobs that he gets, you have to realize this is still a business. He has employees that he has to pay out of that money. He has overhead. He has products that had to be bought to then do the service, right? So it's not ka-ching, we put that in the bank, we balling on the island. Is the business here. And speaking on that, Brandon Nimmo, a lot of detailers want to be the celebrity detail. Do you treat your high-level clientele different than little old Miss Johnson down the street, or is everybody getting the same detail? If they get the same package. Obviously, if a good sir, he has different packages here. We got gold tiers and stuff. But same package, do they get a different service between who they are?
I think subconsciously, maybe. I can like say no, that I treat everyone the same. But if I'm being honest, I do treat those maybe higher net worth customers a little bit differently, because they can change my entire business. Brandon Nimmo changed my entire business. I did his car and I shot a video doing his car, and that video is at 6.5 million views now. That was my first viral video. I went to sleep, woke up to 100,000 views. I said, oh my God, I'm rich.
Right.
And then it just kept going, and then I kept posting. And then we launched the Academy. And it made like $60,000 within a few days launching the first academy. So Brandon Nimmo changed my entire life. So I think you do have to treat different people differently because they treated themselves differently.
That's right.
So sometimes you have to show up to people's doors a little bit differently because of how they showed up for themselves for X amount of years.
Yep.
But Brandon's, oh my God, Brandon's one of the greatest, nicest people. You wouldn't think that this guy just signed a $160 million contract. He's the most humble person that I've ever met.
Right.
Christian guy, never curses, faithful man, one of the most honest, just great, loving. Oh my God, he's just such a great guy. He's so nice. You wouldn't think that, because people have this misconception with money. People think rich people are rude. My nicest customers are the richest customers. My rudest customers are I don't want to say poorest, but people who just drive, older, cars. Those people always seem, people who want to pay the least, they always seem to treat me the worst.
Yeah,
and
I'd say that.
So
I love that, because I would say I've met some rich people out there, Chris, and they were definitely entitled assholes.
Yes.
But I love that. The ones that wanted to pay me the least.
Yes.
You might have had more money. They might have not have, but the ones that want to pay you the least, they're wanting to look at everything and squeeze every dollar. Those are going to be the difficult ones. Because as someone who installed shutters, Chris, I'd see billionaires and millionaires' houses, and I'd always realize, okay, this guy's got a 50,000 square foot mansion, huge yacht, huge boat, but he's here 3 weeks out of the year. It's not a house. This is just a home he bought, one of many. It's not a house like mine. So I don't need the size. I'd see some of them were so mad at everything. Everything had to be so picture perfect. I'm like, damn, we're all gonna die eventually. Whether it's a meteor, comet, whether it's, a tsunami, something's gonna happen. So like, who cares that your frame is just off a little bit, or you have a little chip right here on your yard? You know what I mean? So these people, I'm like, I'm not a huge, faith-based guy, but I appreciate those people because I feel like they're a lot more simplistic.
Yes.
They found their peace already. A lot of people out here, I love what you said earlier, they feel like they're walking alone. Me, I've gone back and forth with with God, and I've always believed in God. This might be a little different view than other people, but I feel like if we're going to the same place, talking to the same person, we all win. And I feel like I've always believed in right and wrong and good. And I think some people out there that, and we don't have to go get crazy on religion right here, Chris, but I'm glad you're here because I really never get to talk about us on my show. And I don't like to do it by myself because I want you to have convo back and forth, and you can decide for you. But I just feel some people I've noticed that use the crutch of God and Jesus and religion of like, I can do it and get away, and then I'm going to be forgiven and talk about it. And I'm like, well, if you truly believed, it would have never even been a decision. You've never even made that choice to do whatever X, Y, and Z that was wrong. You've never stole. You've never done something bad, right? So in my opinion, it's like, I don't want to look at someone's watching me all the time. I feel like it is me. It is you. It's in all of us. Do you accept it? Because everybody knows the baddest gangsters, as soon as they're on, they get parole, they start breaking down crying, right? Who is that person? That person right there is really you. So I want to ask Chris, how important, just to wrap up a little bit, we've talked about everything, your business, what you've done, your mentors, but I want to ask, how important is your team? Shout out to your guys. You guys, have a great team at the Premium Detailing, but to you, how important is the team, or is it really just Chris and listen to what I say?
The team is first. I try to make things as smooth as possible. I just got a $60,000 van set up. I bought the van for $23,000 and invested $37,000 into it to make it as smooth and as efficient as possible. The setup before was maybe worth $30,000, so I doubled it. And the van itself of the last setup was also worth $23,000. So I only invested $7,000 into the last setup. This setup, I invested $37,000. So I try to make things as simple as possible, not just physically, but also mentally. So we have SOPs, and this is also why joining the academy is so great, because once you begin to delegate, it's not just like you just send guys out. Like that doesn't work like that.
Right.
You have to have systems, operations, things have to be put in place, SOPs. There's physical SOPs, digital SOPs. They have access to the CRM. There's so many things put in place to make the job easier for my team and the customer experience easier. And my team also makes commission. So anything that they upsell, they get 30% commission. If they just, like I just had one of my guys, David, close a $500 boat detail. He got 30% of that. So he got paid good money just off of simply being there and booking the actual job.
So not only does he, inspire guys to come work for him to make a check, but also be your own boss. Expand yourself. I got your back. I have the service to do it. He's not going out there saying, hey, I'm going to do the job and do it on the side. I'm David. I'm going to do it on the side. It's now you're also a salesman. Now you're also upcharging people. So that's really important, Chris. I appreciate that, dog. And I'm glad you came on, bro. Like I said, I wish I had old videos, bro. The old classic days of hooping, right? Man. These people would really understand how I used to give it up. But I'd love to sell your videos, your highlights, bro. You're a young hooper out there. Do you still hoop at all?
I hoop on occasion, man.
A little bit?
I'm so busy with church and trying to get closer with God, because I don't want to say that I'm busy. I do have time. Listen, we all have time. We simply choose what we want to invest our time into. So I've been super focused on investing my time into Christ. And I don't know, things have just gone so smooth for me, and things have, you know what I'm saying, not gotten easier, because I still deal with challenges every single day,
right?
But they feel easier to overcome, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
they feel easier to, like, it feels easier to win battles, when before things felt so big, but now things look like so small to me. So
right.
Yeah,
Chris, if you were stuck on an island for 1 month and can only listen to 3 artists, who would they be?
Oh man,
you get every song. That's you and the iguanas and coconuts, but only 3 artists. Who is it gonna be?
Jay-Z for sure.
Hove.
I'm a Hove enthusiast.
Okay,
I know
let's go.
every Hove album from top to bottom. I'm a Jay-Z enthusiast. He's also been a great inspiration for me, entrepreneurship wise. You know, Hove
That's
clearly
a business-minded guy.
A
right
couple
there.
B's. So, Hove, Yak. I'm a big
Kodak
Yak.
in the building.
I'm a
Let's
big
go.
Yak supporter. 1, because I'm from Florida.
That's right.
2, because Yak's been making music since like he was like 9.
That's right.
That's very difficult to do. And Yak's made really good music since like he was about 14. If you listen to his music back when he was like 14, you'll say there's just no way that he's even thinking this way at 14. He has such a creative mind. Yak is a very creative person. The last person, it's gotta be Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls.
Let's go.
It's gotta be Biggie Smalls, man. I'm a big Biggie Smalls. Yo, Biggie Smalls was another just great thinker. So yeah, those are my top 3 for sure.
I love that. Chris, obviously we see you out here, Premium Detailing CEO. We see what you do. We see you always out here doing it, big dog.
Yes,
but who do you do it for?
I do it for Christ, man. And Christ is inside of each and every one of us, just simply waiting to be tapped into. But the Holy Spirit cannot operate when we walk in shame. I think most people are Christian based. People say that they're saved, right? But it's difficult for the Holy Spirit to operate when you don't know your identity. Let me ask you this. Let's say that your mom has a one-night stand with some rich guy. She gets pregnant, but she never sees him again. And you never get to meet who your actual father is, right? Your father passes away, but he was rich. He's left you an inheritance by covenant and by blood. You're entitled to an inheritance, but you don't know who your father is. So how can you take part of that inheritance if you never knew who your father was?
Right.
So there's people walking around and they don't know who their father is. And that's why they don't take part in the inheritance that God has already set aside for them. God has a beautiful, perfect life already set for you to the side. But you can't take part in it because you don't know who to call. You don't know what lawyer to call that has your inheritance. You don't know what, life insurance company to call. And listen, life insurance companies seek after you also.
That's right.
They try to find you to pay you. They go to the ends of the earth to give you your money that you're entitled to.
That's right.
If that's what life insurance companies do, imagine what God does.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about how if there's 100 sheep and 1 sheep gets lost, is there not more joy in finding that 1 sheep than the fact that the other 99 never left?
Right.
There's more joy in finding that 1 sheep. So, but it's difficult for people to allow the Holy Spirit to operate fully because they don't walk with that sense of identity. They don't believe that they're worthy of the sacrifice that Christ made for them. You know what I'm saying? Christ died for us, but you have to believe that you're worthy of taking part of that inheritance that he has for you.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, you can't perform or, move with that sense of confidence. And we see it on the basketball court. We see people who are great in practice, but once they get on the court, they can't play. We see it every day. Guys who are great in practice, but once they're on the court, they can't play. They don't believe that they're worthy to be good on the actual court, even though they are, because we've seen them play before.
Yeah.
And And it'd be so crazy seeing guys. I'm like, yo, he's nice in like practice, but he can't make a shot on the court. That's crazy.
That's right.
So simply being aligned with your identity that has already been proclaimed and set aside for you in Christ. Once you become aligned with that, everything becomes easy.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of confidence as well. And I think a lot of people that are faith-based, that's a source of their confidence, their reassurance and everything in life. You know, it's all going to figure out. It's already been planned. It's already written. It's already on the right path. And that's like a confidence that people that lack self-confidence don't really have. And I love that, bro. And I just feel like, you know, do your thing out there. Believe in yourself. It took me a long time to believe in myself. That's why it took me a long time to get really good at basketball. I didn't really have anybody saying, yeah, you are good. I didn't really believe myself. I'm trying to make the right plays.
Wydoe's always been good, guys. Do not let the cameras fool you.
Not to that extent.
This guy was a killer in high school, let alone when he finished high school. But when I saw him, he was still in high school. He was a killer, yo.
Yeah, we used to go crazy. Now, Chris, can you drop any of your socials, any of the links where people can find the seminar? I'm going to drop your social medias, the premium detail page. But what's the link to the seminar that way they can find it?
Absolutely. Christopher S. Mejia. So Christopher S. and then Mejia. You can find that on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube even. And you'll see the links inside of my bio to where you can get access to register for the 3-day event that we're going to be hosting July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Those are the 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, because we're shooting this one Friday. So yeah, if you want to get free game from me, 3 hours free, definitely tap in. OnetakeOnlyChris. Live in the flesh.
Come on now. I appreciate you so much, dog. You already know it's your boy Wydoe live from the FWMB studios on the Wydoe podcast. And we got Mr. OnetakeOnlyChris in the building. I appreciate you, baby. And if no one told you today, you look good.
You look good,
But your car would look a lot better if you call premium detail and go, let's get right on it. Appreciate you, big dog. Let's go.